When you've been dreaming of the high life, the promise of money and fame can be intoxicating.
She was aspiring to be a model and an actress.
He portrayed himself as being this actor and this rapper that was giving back to the community. She was totally just obsessed with him.
But if it's all a facade, where do you run to when the avalanche starts?
This case was about greed. This case was about someone who was portraying themselves to live a lifestyle that they definitely couldn't afford.
After a single decision snowballs into the ultimate consequence, who pays for the destruction that ensues?
He didn't want to get his hands dirty.
After it happened, he ended up ghosting her.
She let her love for her man get in the way of good and evil.
This is time that she'll never ever get back, and it's all because she decided to help her men.
September 2nd, 2012, Chicago, Illinois. The Windy City is quiet as the early morning hours creep by.
Chicago is a beautiful, world-class city. It's a gem right along Lake Michigan.
It's a continuously thriving melting pot of great people, great food, great attractions.
But as the sun begins to rise over Lake Michigan, the day takes a sinister turn.
911 operators received a frantic call from 35-year-old Randall Davis. He said an intruder broke into his girlfriend's condo and shot her.
He would cry out for someone to come to the apartment to help.
Police race to the luxury apartment building in the city's upscale North Side neighborhood.
The fact that this crime happened in this neighborhood is quite shocking.
It's not known for its crime. This is an area where people go to escape crime.
Inside the apartment, police make contact with the 911 caller, Randall Davis, who appears to have been attacked himself.
He had sustained a large laceration to his head.
The injuries suffered by his girlfriend, Yolanda Holmes, appear to be much more severe.
They see Yolanda's body in a pool of blood.
She was dead. She sustained multiple wounds to the chest.
It's clear Yolanda's death was beyond violent. It looked like she suffered a horrific death.
Yolanda Holmes was a vivacious 45-year-old who never met a stranger and worked hard to become a successful business owner.
Yolanda owned a local hair salon where you not only could just get regular services, but people came to talk, hang out, have fun.
While Yolanda was deeply rooted in her community, everyone knew her 24-year-old son was number one in her life.
Her son, Kwame Wilson, that was her prize, that was her joy.
Kwame, or Young QC, was an emerging rapper in Chicago.
He was charismatic, young, good-looking.
Yolanda supported all his creative efforts and really believed in what he can do with his craft.
She was essentially helping to fund his budding music career until he could make it on his own.
But now, Yolanda Holmes is lying dead in her apartment.
How could something so tragic and horrendous happen to such a beautiful, vibrant, and loving person?
When homicide detectives arrive, they immediately turn to Yolanda's boyfriend, Randall Davis, for answers.
He explained that it all started around 4:40 that morning.
According to Randall, he and Yolanda had just fell asleep, and next thing you know, he heard gunshots.
That's when he saw the gunman standing over Yolanda.
Yolanda's boyfriend described the gunman as a male, African-American, approximately 6 feet tall, and about 210 pounds.
According to Randall, he leaped out of the bed and tried to take down the intruder, to protect Yolanda. And that's when he was struck over the head by the gun.
He claimed he ended up getting knocked unconscious, and then the offender ran out of the house.
Randall says when he regained consciousness a few minutes later, the apartment was covered in blood.
That's when he realized she had been shot, and he called 911.
We asked him who could have done this, and he had no reason why someone would want Yolanda dead.
His only response was, "You're the detectives. You tell me who did this."
As Randall is transferred to the hospital, detectives begin processing the scene for more clues.
I've been on the job 22 years, and I don't think I've ever seen a bloodier crime scene.
Yolanda's bedroom was an absolute mess. There was blood splatter on the wall. There were bullet holes found in her headboard.
Gunshot wounds weren't Yolanda's only injuries.
Yolanda had been shot in the head and stabbed 4 times in her abdomen.
It's clear Yolanda's death was beyond violent. This immediately seems like overkill.
Detectives quickly locate what they believe to be one of the murder weapons.
We observed a black revolver that was in pieces on the floor. That could easily happen from firing and exploding, or if it was used to hit somebody, it could fall apart like that.
Detectives don't find the knife used in the crime, but they do discover other curious pieces of evidence.
There was an earbud, a white earbud, that was torn and cut.
There was a stack of money that was on the floor, and it was covered in blood, $90,000 cash.
If this was a random intruder, it was strange that the assailant didn't take it with them.
And that is what we had to get to the bottom of.
Detectives begin to question Randall's account of a mysterious intruder.
We observed the door was in original condition and it had not been damaged.
All of the locks were intact. There were no pry marks. There was definitely no signs of forced entry.
Did Randall Davis know more about this crime than he was letting on?
On September 2nd, 2012, after receiving a panicked 911 call from Randall Davis, Chicago police have discovered the body of his girlfriend, 45-year-old Yolanda Holmes.
Randall claims an intruder broke in and attacked them. He had suffered a head wound, but Yolanda had been shot in the head and stabbed multiple times in the chest.
Investigators are beginning to question whether Randall knows more than he's letting on.
Yolanda's boyfriend's account of the incident had some holes in it.
The only thing that he ever mentioned to us is the fact that Yolanda was shot. But she wasn't just shot, she was shot and she was stabbed to death.
That was odd and very suspect.
Furthermore, there's no sign of forced entry into the apartment.
All of the locks were intact, there were no pry marks.
Something was sketchy, a little fishy.
Investigators begin questioning Yolanda's neighbors, hoping to find someone who might have heard or seen anything suspicious.
We knocked on every single door and interviewed every single person that lived inside that building. A couple people heard what they thought might have been a gunshot around the time of the murder, but most of those leads didn't really lead us anywhere.
Fortunately, though, detectives receive word that the apartment complex has surveillance cameras.
If there really was this mystery intruder that Randall claimed, then that person would be seen on the footage.
Back at the station, detectives review the surveillance video.
As we continued observing the video, we were shocked.
At 4:30 that morning, they do indeed see footage of a man that looked similar to what Randall had described.
A black male, approximately 6 feet tall and about 200 pounds.
He was walking up to the front door, nonchalant, like he lived there. And he was holding dry cleaning over his shoulder and a detergent bottle.
But that's not all.
He's wearing white earbuds.
That was exciting because in the crime scene, we identified a single white earbud laying in the blood on the floor.
He puts his hands toward the keypad and puts a code in.
Moments later, he was buzzed in.
He enters going directly to the 4th floor. So the person knew exactly where they were going.
And walked up to Yolanda's door and walked in without any force and without any issue.
The suspected gunman remains inside the apartment for approximately 7 minutes.
After he left Yolanda's apartment, he quickly walked down the hall into the stairwell.
Detectives are able to make out another crucial detail in the footage of the man leaving the building.
You can see a single white earbud with a cord hanging from his ear.
That second earbud was clearly missing.
The question now is, who let the suspect into the building?
We had to keep digging to get the truth. Was Yolanda's boyfriend involved? Did he set this up?
Before police can speak with Randall again, they get word that someone has arrived at the station to talk to them.
It's Yolanda's 24-year-old son, Kwame Wilson.
It seemed like he was still in shock.
He was distraught about what happened to his mother. He wanted justice served and was seeking answers.
Kwame tells detectives he has some information that could help aid in the investigation.
He tells detectives that there's one person that has shown violence to his mother in the past, and that person is her boyfriend, Randall Davis.
Kwame does tell detectives that he thought they had broken up recently.
According to Kwame, the couple had gotten into a recent argument that had been the last straw for his mother.
Randall and his mother actually got into a fight, which led to Randall breaking the TV, and eventually police were called, and Randall had to leave the apartment.
Yolanda, after that, she didn't press charges, but now that's raising some flags with detectives.
Investigators were already suspicious of Randall, and now they hear he has violent tendencies.
Detectives asked Kwame, do they believe that Randall could be involved in his mom's murder? And without a shadow of a doubt, Kwame immediately says yes.
The next day, after Randall has been released from the hospital, detectives bring him down to the station for a follow-up interview. When they ask him about the prior altercation with Yolanda, he has an explanation.
Randall tells the police that he had been drinking and that he was jealous of another man. Things just got out of hand.
But he says that him and Yolanda had rekindled their relationship. Since then,
in fact, Randall says on the night Yolanda was killed, she invited him over for a romantic evening.
They had sex and were preparing to go to sleep when Yolanda's phone went off. It was her son, Kwame.
Kwame was asking to come pick up some money from his mother.
Yolanda told Kwame that she would leave the door unlocked for him since she and Randall were going to bed.
But why did Kwame need money so late at night? And did he ever actually go over to retrieve it?
they find it odd that Kwame never mentioned this call. They find this suspicious.
Yolanda Holmes loved her son, Kwame Wilson. She really invested a lot of her time into helping him develop into an independent young man. The two of them inherited an apartment building on the west side of Chicago, where she allowed him to stay in the unit and manage the tenants in that unit. While he was invested in his young career as a rapper, she still sought out really helping her son to be independent and manage his finances better.
In September of 2012, Chicago investigators are trying to solve the murder of 45-year-old Yolanda Holmes, who was found shot and stabbed in her uptown luxury apartment. Yolanda's boyfriend, Randall Davis, who found Yolanda dead and made the 911 call, has been the main suspect so far.
Even though Yolanda's boyfriend was cooperating with the investigation, a lot of what he said didn't coincide with some of the evidence.
In speaking with Randall, detectives have uncovered a suspicious piece of information about Yolanda's son, Kwame.
Yolanda got a call from Kwame not long before the murder took place.
Kwame asked Yolanda if he could come over that morning to get some cash from her.
Yolanda left the door open for Kwame, which could explain how the gunman got into the apartment.
Detectives were wondering why hadn't Kwame told them about this call initially when they first spoke with him.
Detectives attempt to contact Kwame several times to see if he has an explanation, but they get no response.
Over the following days, detectives are still trying to reach out to Kwame, but has not heard back from him.
While Kwame is nowhere to be found around Chicago, his online presence has never been more active.
Since his mother passed, Kwame was seen flaunting his wealth and cars and all of that on social media.
I don't play no games, man. You know, I do this for real.
Yolanda had a bunch of life insurance policies.
Now, the amount of money in those policies was never disclosed, but there was $90,000 that was found inside of Yolanda's apartment, and he was the beneficiary of that money.
To investigators, it doesn't seem like the behavior of a grieving son.
Kwame was coming into a lot of money, and he was not shy at all about spending the money that he was getting and partying around town.
He started looking more and more suspicious to me. What we did next is we did a cell phone study.
When detectives pulled Kwame's phone records, they were able to verify the call that Randall had mentioned.
Kwame also made several other phone calls around the time of his mother's murder.
Some of those calls were made to a man named Eugene Spencer, who was familiar to police.
Eugene Spencer had a rap sheet, but very minor stuff. I think he only had like 1 or 2 arrests. He was homeless though, so he wasn't easy to locate.
Detectives also realized that Eugene shared a lot of the physical characteristics of the person that was seen in that surveillance video.
Eugene Spencer isn't the only person Kwame was corresponding with that morning.
Kwame made several phone calls to a woman named Loriana Johnson.
Loriana Johnson is someone police are not familiar with.
She had basically no criminal history and definitely wasn't involved in anything like this before.
Who is Loriana Johnson, and can she help them find Kwame and Eugene?
23-year-old Loriana Johnson was a beautiful Chicago native, focusing on a budding career.
She was aspiring to be a model and an actress.
She was also a young mom who was trying her best to make ends meet. She worked at a hair supply store, but she was waiting for her big break. She was a tiny, petite little thing.
It was on a modeling gig that she first laid eyes on 24-year-old Kwame Wilson.
Loriana was there for a photo shoot, but Kwame was there as an up-and-coming artist.
Kwame was a young and aspiring rapper who went by the name of Young QC.
Kwame looked every bit the part of the next big thing.
He portrayed himself as being this rapper that was giving back to the community. Loriana was definitely impressed by that.
Loriana was starstruck by Kwame, his rapping, his charisma, and his local fame.
When Loriana became Kwame's girl, she finally got a taste of the high life she always dreamed of.
Kwame would have nights on the town with her, give her lavish gifts.
She was impressed by his lifestyle. He appeared to have a lot of money. She liked the fact that he got all this attention, that he had a pretty big following. She was totally just obsessed with Kwame.
But behind all that cash was a dark secret.
She was naive, believing that Kwame was this successful rapper. In reality, most of the money that Kwame saw came from his mother and her successful hair salon.
Now, Chicago detectives are hoping Loriana can help them track down Kwame and unravel what really happened on the night of his mother's untimely death.
Detectives want to speak to her and Eugene Spencer ASAP.
Before they can, they receive the call they've been waiting for.
Officers call me and let me know that Kwame Wilson was part of a traffic stop. He told the officers that he was looking to talk to me about his mom's investigation.
September 2012, Chicago, Illinois. Local homicide detectives are becoming more and more suspicious of 24-year-old Kwame Wilson regarding the death of his mother, Yolanda Holmes.
Detectives have learned that Kwame had made a phone call to his mom asking for money before her brutal murder.
Since her death, he had been flaunting all of the money he had inherited from her all over social media.
So on top of that, it seemed that he had been evading law enforcement.
After learning that Kwame made several calls to his girlfriend, Loriana Johnson, and another man, Eugene Spencer, around the time of the murder, detectives are eager to speak with them. But then, they get the news they've been waiting for.
Officers call me and let me know that Kwame Wilson was part of a traffic stop, and he told the officers that he was looking to talk to me about his mom's investigation. So I said, transport him into the station and we'll talk about his mom's case.
When detectives finally sit down with Kwame, they ask him where he's been.
Kwame tells him he's actually been trying to get in contact with them.
Detectives question Kwame about Eugene Spencer, the man he placed several calls to around the time of the murder, and a dead ringer for the man seen in the surveillance video.
Kwame admits to knowing Eugene, but he said it's only because Eugene used to live above him at his old apartment.
Detectives asked Kwame what he and Spencer were talking about the morning of the murder, and Kwame says that he does not remember.
Why would Kwame be having all these phone calls with someone he claims is just an old neighbor, and now he can't even remember what they talked about?
When detectives show Kwame a screenshot from the surveillance footage, he's much more forthcoming.
He was pretty quiet, but then he finally says, "You already know who that is. That's Boo." And Boo is the nickname that Eugene Spencer used. So he tells me that Eugene Spencer is the person who went inside the house and killed his mother.
We were shocked. That changed everything.
Kwame, he looks down and looks defeated almost, and he tells investigators that this was supposed to be a robbery.
Kwame tells detectives that it was all Eugene's idea. Eugene wanted to rob his mother because she was rich.
He basically says that he feared for his safety. He was afraid of Boo, Eugene Spencer.
According to Kwame, his girlfriend, Loriana Johnson, was also in on the plan.
Loriana was the getaway driver.
She provided the transportation for Eugene to and from Yolanda's apartment.
Kwame insists that he loved his mother and never would have harmed her on purpose.
He said that he was just supposed to go inside and get money. He had no idea that Eugene would end up killing Yolanda Holmes.
Is Kwame telling the truth?
He is the only one who has anything substantial to gain from this murder.
All of her life insurance policies and remaining assets were awarded to Kwame. Detectives wanted to speak with Loriana and Eugene to see if their stories lined up with what Kwame was claiming.
Although tracking down Eugene is still proving difficult, police are quickly able to locate Loriana Johnson and bring her in for questioning.
Loriana was very polite. She was very quiet. She wasn't very forthcoming initially.
She denied even knowing anything about the murder.
How do you not know that your boyfriend's mother was killed?
With added pressure from detectives, Loriana changes her tune.
So after further questioning, Loriana admits that she does know about the murder, and she was even at Yolanda's funeral. But Kwame told her that whoever killed Yolanda was in custody and had already confessed to the crime.
Loriana insists that she had nothing to do with his mother's murder.
That's when detectives reveal what Kwame has already told them.
Police reveal to Loriana that Kwame already has implicated her in the crime and already told them that she was the getaway driver.
Loriana is stunned finding out that Kwame would say all of this about her.
As time went on, she realized that she couldn't lie to protect Kwame anymore. And little by little, bits of information came out about exactly what happened.
Loriana admits that on September 1st, 2012, Kwame asked her to come over when she got off work.
When she arrived, Kwame introduced her to Eugene Spencer.
Eventually, Kwame took Loriana into his bedroom where the two had sex. Loriana didn't know what Eugene was doing during that time. But when they emerged from the bedroom, he was still at the apartment.
At that point, Eugene asked Loriana to give him a ride to the north side. Eugene also offered to give Loriana $30 for gas money.
Loriana agreed to take Eugene to where he needed to go. But she says she never could have anticipated where that ride would really take her.
There was this awful smell coming from him.
It smelled like death.
September 2012, Chicago, Illinois. Detectives are interrogating Loriana Johnson regarding her role in the murder of her boyfriend's mother, 45-year-old Yolanda Holmes.
She admits that she agreed to drive Kwame's friend Eugene to Chicago's north side. But she thought it was just to run an errand, not to commit murder.
Well, Loriana says when it was time to get in the car, Eugene got in the back seat, which she found odd, but she didn't think much of it.
When he got into the car, he had a duffel bag with some clothes and some hangers on them. She said that they were silent for most of the drive.
When they arrived at their destination, Eugene told her that he just needed to drop some things off and he'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Just 10 minutes later, Eugene came running back to the car.
He was out of breath. Something seemed a bit off.
She smelled this horrible smell coming from him that she had never smelled before. She told investigators that she tried to ask Eugene about the smell, but he just told her to drive. She did what she was told.
Once they made it several blocks away, Eugene told Loriana to let him out of the car. And she says she hasn't seen him since.
Was Loriana Johnson really as unsuspecting as she claims?
Kwame had already told police that Loriana knew Eugene was going there to rob Yolanda.
I didn't believe Loriana at all. She knew that she was waiting outside as the getaway driver. She knew afterwards that Kwame's mother was dead, and it was completely unreasonable to believe that she didn't put all of this together.
Before detectives can press her for answers, they receive news that Eugene Spencer has finally been taken into custody.
So detectives decide to keep Loriana in holding while they go and question Eugene.
Detectives are surprised that immediately Eugene confesses in his role in the murder.
Eugene admits that Kwame was the mastermind of this, and Loriana was more involved than she was letting on. He says Kwame's motive was to collect the 2 life insurance policies on Yolanda.
This case was about greed. This case was about someone who was portraying themselves to live a lifestyle that they definitely couldn't afford. And he would have gone to any means to obtain this lifestyle. And what he did is he brought someone else along for the ride with him, which was Loriana.
The plan was for Loriana to drive Eugene to Yolanda's condo, and he was supposed to shoot her.
He and Kwame were on the phone, and Kwame was giving him instructions on how to get into the building. When he made his way into Yolanda's bedroom, he was met with a surprise that none of them had anticipated. Randall Davis.
He wasn't expecting someone else to be inside the house.
Eugene says that he was eventually able to knock Randall out.
At that point is when Eugene called Kwame to tell him what had happened.
And Kwame said, make sure that is dead.
He went and got a knife out of the kitchen and stabbed Yolanda 3 to 4 times just to make sure that she was gone.
When Eugene returned to the car, he was covered in blood.
He says that he wrapped the murder knife in some clothing and then gave it to Loriana for safekeeping before they sped away.
Kwame promised him $4,200, and to this day, he only received $70 for payment.
After speaking with Eugene Spencer, detectives, they were more confident that Kwame was the actual mastermind and Loriana Johnson was a co-conspirator.
With Eugene Spencer's statement in tow, detectives confront Loriana once again.
Loriana now changes her story.
She says that she knew that they were planning something, but she thought it was just a robbery. On September 2nd, Kwame told her that she needed to bring a gun that he had hidden at her place to his apartment. Once she arrived at the apartment, Kwame asked her to drive Eugene to the north side. She saw Kwame wiping down the gun as well as the bullets.
She agreed to help her man. She agreed to drive someone that she barely knew to the apartment building. She never knew that the victim was going to be Kwame's mother.
Loriana tells detectives that she really was shocked when Eugene returned to the car, smelling like death.
She now admits that she called Kwame and asked him, well, what's going on with Eugene?
Eugene starts chiming in from the back saying, I shot her, but the gun jammed, so I had to get a knife.
Loriana denies ever seeing the knife in question and that Eugene never gave her the knife.
Loriana also tells detectives that following the murder, her loyalty to Kwame didn't get her very far.
Kwame started ghosting her and ignoring her calls.
Kwame was dating other people. She still would see him on occasion, but they definitely were not in a serious relationship per her after the murder.
With the confession, investigators have enough to charge Kwame, Eugene, and Loriana with first-degree murder.
The fact that she admitted to driving Eugene Spencer and participating in what she believed to be an armed robbery and someone died as a result of what occurred, she is still liable for what we call in Illinois is felony murder.
Prosecutors knew that in order to convict Kwame, Loriana had to be a star witness.
Can investigators work out a deal with Loriana and convince her to testify against her man?
He sent her out to do the dirty work for him.
If she doesn't take the deal, she could spend the rest of her life behind bars.
With women like Loriana, we see what it costs you to protect someone who may not even value you, love you, respect you. She really believed that this dude, this person that said that loved her, really did love her. And unfortunately, this was a crime that she may have also been blinded by, but still wanted to see it out just to protect him. It's clear you have to recognize these red flags. Like, nobody who says that they love you would ever put you in harm's way.
Fall 2012, Chicago, Illinois. Investigators are preparing to offer 23-year-old murder suspect Loriana Johnson a plea deal if she agrees to testify against her man at trial.
Police believe Kwame Wilson was the mastermind behind his mother's murder. But Loriana also faces first-degree murder charges because she served as the getaway driver.
However, if Loriana agrees to take the deal, her charges will be lessened to armed robbery.
If she doesn't take the deal, she could spend the rest of her life behind bars.
We let her know that Kwame basically set her out to dry. He sent her out to do the dirty work for him, and he figured that he wouldn't be liable for anything that they did.
After it happened, he ended up ghosting her.
They tell Loriana it's time that she put her best interests first.
To investigators' relief, Loriana decides to take the deal.
Loriana agreed to testify against Kwame Wilson in exchange for a plea deal, which allowed her to be sentenced to just 14 years.
In March 2019, Kwame gets his day in court.
Kwame Wilson is on trial for first-degree murder, and the prosecution's star witness against him is Loriana. Loriana admitted Kwame was the mastermind to this whole murder of his mother. He provided the weapons, and he provided information to Eugene and Loriana of how to gain entry into his mother's residence.
Prosecutors tell the jury that Kwame's motive was to collect the 2 life insurance policies on Yolanda, and that Kwame was the beneficiary of the $90,000 that was in Yolanda's home.
Kwame didn't want to get his hands dirty, but he wanted to make sure his mother was dead.
After a 4-day trial, the jury reaches a decision.
It only took them 2 hours to convict Kwame of first-degree murder, home invasion, and attempted murder.
Kwame Wilson was sentenced to 99 years in prison.
A day later, Eugene Spencer is dealt a similar fate.
At his trial, Eugene was found guilty and convicted of the same 3 charges Kwame faced, but he was given 100 years in prison.
The fact that Kwame would have his own mother killed in such a brutal fashion is still a bitter pill to swallow for those that loved Yolanda.
This case was especially sad because the true killer here, Kwame Wilson, was raised with a family that loved him and wanted only the best for him.
Yolanda gave him everything that she possibly could. There was no reason for this to have happened.
How tragic is this that the one person that she loved is the person who paid someone $70 to brutally murder her.
Loriana Johnson is released on parole in 2020.
With time served and Illinois' day served equals day credit policy, Loriana only has to serve 7 years out of her 14-year sentence.
Despite getting out early, this is still 7 years. This is time she'll never get back with her kids. And it's all because she decided to help her men.
This is a cautionary tale. She could have had a much better life had she not been so obsessed with Kwame Wilson.
Loriana Johnson was a young, beautiful, smart girl who let her emotions and love for her man get in the way of good and evil.
Love is a powerful drug. In this case, it was deadly.
Love can feel like an avalanche, but in the wake of an avalanche is total destruction. Shattered lives, lifelong scars that will never fade, and sometimes a woman left holding the bag, wondering where it all went wrong.
Each episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, will contain descriptions of acts of violence or of a sexual nature and are for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off the internet or from some television show. These facts I'm retelling were presented to me by the victims of the crime or the perpetrators who committed the crimes. My descriptions of the crime scenes are what I saw with my own two eyes. If you are going to get offended, turn this podcast off now. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. And as always, I'm your host, Woody Overton. Before we get started on today's episode, I want to make an announcement and let y'all know to tune in at the end of the episode. Don't quit listening, because I'll be making several announcements to our patron members and our fans and giving some shout outs and stuff like that. So stay tuned at the end of today's episode. And with that, let's get started. On June 20th, 2003, I was working as a deputy in the Uniform Patrol Division for the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office. However, on this day, it was a Friday, I was off duty, having worked the Wednesday night and the Thursday night before this day. And I lived in the town of Albany, Louisiana, which is the easternmost town in Livingston Parish, right before you cross into Tangipahoa Parish. Maybe the town limits in maybe a half a mile from the Tangipahoa Parish line. So I was living in an apartment kind of in the heart of town, if you will. Let me describe Albany to you. This is classic small town America. It only had one grocery store. It had one local hamburger joint, Erdy's, where everybody would go for your hamburgers and your french fries and your ice cream or whatever. It had the one gas station, which was, I believe, a Junior Food Mart at the time, and had the absolute best fried chicken. Anyway, Junior Food Mart had the best fried chicken, and I would always get a 4-piece spicy and a large fry. But Erdy's had the best hamburger, and there was one little grocery store, and I didn't do much cooking at the time. I was a bachelor. You had the high school and the middle school and the elementary were right there in the heart of town together. And almost directly across the street from that is the police station and the fire department. And next door to that is the justice of the peace and the / barbershop, et cetera, that I mentioned on the Hotline episode. And it was just small town America. They had another little convenience store. I think it was just south of the town limits. So, but it was small town America. There was one diner that was open early in the morning where all the locals would meet up and have their coffee and their breakfast, etc. But it was closed by the end of lunchtime. And Highway 190 ran right through the north edge of town from east to west, as well as a set of railroad tracks, which were right off of Highway 190. And Louisiana Highway 43 ran north to south through the town limits. And that was a major thoroughfare, y'all. It's just a small town. Everybody knew everybody, and Friday night football was big, and baseball, and, just small town America. Really, really good people. Very low crime rate. And the police department consisted of the Chief Russell Hutchinson, who had been there ever, and I think is still there today. And it has to be one of the longest running chief of police in the state of Louisiana, and Assistant Chief Ronnie Gregoire. And they were full-time employees. And then they had 2 part-time employees. One was Leon Winstead, is a awesome friend of mine. I actually stood in his wedding. He was single on June the 20th. He was single, and he actually had the apartment 2 doors down from mine. So we were just super tight, running buddies. And great guy, great cop. But his main job was he was an engineer on a riverboat on the Mississippi River. But on his days off, he would do the Albany Police Department. Certainly not because he needed the money, but because he loved to be a cop. And the Albany Police Department's call signs, like mine was LP 361, Livingston Parish 361, my unit number. Theirs were AP, Albany Police, and their numbers, and Leon's was AP4. And what a great cop. We used to have so much fun. And then the other part-time was Robbie Ellis, and he was a full-time flooring guy, and he did it pretty much the same thing, not because he needed the money, but because he loved policing. Now, at the time, on the east side of the parish, which is Livingston Parish, was split geographically east to west for law enforcement purposes. And the east side of the parish, generally, the sheriff's office would have 2 deputies, 10-8, or on duty at a time, sometimes maybe 3 if the shift was full. And so if you called any kind of major call over on the east side of the parish, the town cops, which were Albany and Springfield and Killian, well, oftentimes that was your only backup. You know, your partner might be, the east side of the parish geographically is huge. You know, you might be way up north, 20 miles from your partner when he catches a 911 disturbance down south, and they didn't have any backup. So the town guys would roll out and back you up. So we became really, really close with them. And I was really close with the Albany guys. Not only did I live there, but go hang out. When the calls would slow down, sometimes I would stop in, hang out at the Albany PD. And Chief Russell was just funnier than hell. And Ronnie Gregoire was a pretty good character also. And of course, like I said, Leon and Robbie was good guys, right? Just small town. So actually, let me tell you this. At nighttime, the full-time guys would go in, but either one of them would be on call. It would be either the chief, Russell, or the assistant chief, Ronnie Gregoire, and they alternated it out, right? So the chief told me one time, he said, Woody, I always make my schedule to be on call when I know you're on duty. He said, I want to be on call overnight when you're on duty because I know you'll never call me out for anything. He said, if anything happens in town, you come and handle it and you arrest them, and I don't have to worry about anything. He said, but you believe one thing, if you have to call me out, somebody's going to jail. Russell's a super good cop, man. He's just old school and patient, and never see him get excited about anything. But in a time where everybody has semi-automatics, Russell had a old revolver. I remember that clearly. I was like, Chief, why don't you carry a Glock or a Beretta or whatever? And he said, because the revolver will never hang up. He said it'll never jam like your pistol will. Point taken. So back to it on June 20th. 2003. It was hotter than hell. I remember that from the night before. We're really getting into the heart of summer, and July and August get a little bit worse, but it wasn't a cloud in the sky. It was a bright, hot day. And I had gotten off that morning at 6 a.m. and that would be the one day, Friday, a week that I didn't have to go in for court for people that are arrested to testify, et cetera. Usually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I'd have to go in to court and handle whatever cases, motion to suppress or whatever, testify and whatever the cases may be. But Fridays, I looked forward to because I knew I was going to be off, and I would get in and have something to eat and watch a little TV and go to bed about 7, maybe 8 o'clock a.m. and generally wake up 2 or 3. So I was up and I had my radio on charge. Now, when I would come in my door, I'd take off my gun belt, and I had a nail inside the door, and I hung my gun belt on the wall, right? It's a really heavy thing. So you got 2 pair of handcuffs and your ASP baton and your Freeze Plus P and your 2 extra magazines for ammunition and then your duty weapon and your flashlight and shit. The belt itself weighed probably 5 or 6 pounds. You add all that stuff in, and it's a lot of weight. But I hung it inside the door on the wall, and then I would take my radio off the belt and put it on the charger on the countertop in my kitchen, which was a small apartment. And so I would turn it on when I got up and listen. Just kind of always in the background was the radio in case something bad ever broke off. But that afternoon, about 4:45, something like that, the Livingston Parish Dispatch came over and said, all units, there's a 64G in progress at the Hibernia Bank in Albany. Now, if I stepped outside my apartment door, I could throw a rock almost and hit the Hibernia Bank. And at the same time, the Albany Police Department. And that's how close we all were together. Less than a quarter mile, I would say. So I threw on some jeans and shoes, and I grabbed my radio and my gun belt, and I ran out the door and got in my unit. About 10 minutes earlier, inside the Hibernia Bank, there were 4 employees. One whose initials I'm going to use, CI, then another lady named Teresa Rogers, and another lady, Michelle Kreko, Kreko, and Lucy Henwinkle were working inside the bank. And one customer came in, Michael Threaton. He came in to cash his paycheck. It's Friday afternoon, right? At the same time, they had an older model Cutlass, Oldsmobile Cutlass vehicle pull up to the bank. Now, this bank parking lot, you couldn't pull, when you pulled in, you could not park directly in front of the bank. The bank faced Highway 190, but it had grass in front, and you had to pull into the parking lot, which was, if you're facing the bank, parking lot's on the right-hand side. You have to park on the right-hand side and get out and walk the walkway to the front of the building. And along that walkway is the ATM, which is on the exterior of the building. But the Blue Olds pulls up, and 3 black males get out, dressed in all black. As they approach the door, the 3 males put on black ski masks, actually as they were entering the door. And the last one was pulling down his mask. Enter the bank, and they start screaming, stick up, get down, motherfuckers. And it just pointing the guns in the employees' faces. One of the males jumps the counter immediately and starts to empty the cash drawers. The other male put the customer and one of the employees down at gunpoint on the floor. Third male, who appeared to be the leader of the ring, made CI get on the floor and told her to get on her hands and knees. Now, meanwhile, they're screaming and hollering and cussing, and the employees are begging for their lives. And the one that made CI get on the floor on her hands and knees, I mean, it's kind of but a odd instruction for a robber to tell somebody to get on their hands and knees. And CI was, I'm not big on New Year's resolutions, and I don't sit around making promises myself I'm not going to keep. But I do believe in starting the year doing things right. That means sleeping when I can, eating decent, staying active, and paying attention when something feels off. And for a lot of people, especially women, feeling tired or foggy at the start of the year gets written off as stress or burnout, when low iron can actually be part of the problem. Iron deficiency affects 1 in 3 adults, and the symptoms don't always jump out at you. It can show up as constant fatigue, even when you're sleeping enough, brain fog or trouble concentrating, frequent headaches, irritability or brittle nails, and hair breakage. When iron levels are low, your body has to work harder to deliver oxygen, and that can impact your energy, focus, mood, and physical performance. And iron deficiency can exist long before anything turns into anemia, which means you can feel it well before it shows up on paper. That's why I recommend Citarol from Pharma Nutra. Citarol is a premium iron supplement powered by the patented sucrosomial technology. This technology helps your body absorb iron 3 to 4 times more effectively than standard iron supplements without the common stomach issues people complain about, like nausea and constipation. It's clinically proven to be comparable to IV iron, and it's made with just 2 main ingredients: 30 milligrams of sucrosomial iron and vitamin C in a convenient once-a-day capsule you can take anytime, with or without food. Citarol is backed by 20 years of research, 150 plus clinical studies, and is trusted by more than 2 million people worldwide. It's the number one supplement brand in Italy, and it's used in over 90 countries. If you're starting the year and you're still feeling tired or foggy despite doing the right things, you're not alone. And this might be the support your body needs. Head to PharmaNutra-US.com and use code RLRC for 10% off your first order of Citarol. That's PHARMANUTRA-US.com, promo code RLRC. An attractive female. The robber told her to get on her hands and knees, and when she did, he reached down and started rubbing her on her genital area. And when she screamed, he said, "Shut up, you fucking bitch. I'll fucking kill you," and put the gun to her head. Once the robber behind the counter cleared out the drawers, they demanded to know who the manager was, which was Teresa Rogers. And the one who was rubbing CI's private area, her genitals, took Rogers to the vault door and demanded her open the door, bitch, open this vault, bitch. And Rogers was so nervous that she was fumbling to get the vault open, and the robber puts the gun to her head and says, "You fucking bitch, I'm gonna blow your fucking brains out if you don't open it." And so she was able to open the door, but she, like all of them later stated, she thought she was going to be killed. And she got the vault door open, and they were able to make entry into the vault. They grabbed a bunch of money, and then they ran back out the front door. Right before they ran back out the front door, a Livingston Parish Sheriff's deputy who was getting off of work, she worked in a courthouse, Miss Linda Brown, pulled up and is getting out of her vehicle, preparing to walk up to the ATM, and lo and behold, running out of the door come 3 males dressed in dark clothing, wearing ski masks and carrying guns in large bags full of money. Thank God they didn't see her or shoot her or whatever. She didn't carry a firearm. And like I said, she worked in the courthouse and was a really sweet lady. So they jump into the older model Cutlass and drive off eastbound on Highway 190 towards the Tangipahoa Parish, Livingston Parish line. Now, Miss Linda saw that the vehicle had a temporary license plate, duct taped actually, onto the car. It was a Wisconsin plate, okay, a temporary license plate from Wisconsin, which stood out like a sore thumb. And so they speed away, if you will, towards the parish line. Now, at the same time, the employees, of course, hit the buzzer for 911. It goes into the dispatch for Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office. And that's when they made the call out. There's 64G in progress at Hibernia Bank. And like I stated earlier, I'm running out the door as quickly as possible and pull up to the bank. I mean, I jump in my unit, I hit it. I mean, I'm there, but when I'm pulling up, both Chief Hutchinson and Ronnie Gregoire are pulling up at the same time, and they go in, and I mean, everybody's shook up. Those ladies really thought they were going to die. An armed robbery is actually a crime of violence, even if they don't shoot anyone, and it's considered a crime of violence in the state of Louisiana because it injures you. Okay. It's mentally violent. And these guys were classic on that. They came in, they established control by force, which is putting, even though it's not physical force, they didn't touch them at that point, putting guns in people's faces and making them get down on the floor. Then you got the one pervert who likes the way CI looks and makes her get on her hands or knees and takes the time to violate her sexually by rubbing her private area, her genital area. And when she screams, he, shut up, you fucking bitch, I'll blow your head off, right? Anyway, so they're headed eastbound on Highway 190 towards the Tangipahoa line. Now, everybody's starting to respond, right? When that call goes out, they did it on both tacks, which means the west side of the parish was on tack 1. That's just radio channels, y'all. And the east side on tack 2. Well, when that goes out, they 1033 the net for tack 2, which covered the east side, which means emergency traffic only. So everybody else switches over to tack 1 to do their regular communications, but everybody is going to respond to this. All your town police, Killian, Springfield, Livingston actually has its own police department in the town of Livingston, and whatever guys were free on the west side, plus everybody like me that worked for the sheriff's office or any type of law enforcement that had their radio on, they're all responding, right? I mean, it's not a question of getting paid or whatever at this time. You do the job because you love it. So we get there, and Miss Linda tells us the vehicle and the direction that it drove away, which, y'all, on the parish line, if you take Highway 190 towards the parish line, and right before you get to the parish line, you take a left across the railroad tracks onto what they call North Cafe Line Road. It is a long, straight road. It's probably 3 to 4 miles long. And as you go down, it's pretty rural at the beginning of it. There's like one bar that's only open on weekends. That's on the left, and a couple houses spread out on the right and left for the first mile or two. Then it starts to become more populated and turns into one of the only what's kind of known as the hoods in Livingston Parish. And it just gets into poor area, if you will. And that's where we had a lot of trouble with our crack dealing and stuff like that. That one section of North Cafe Line Road. There are 2 roads that turn to the right. There's no roads that go to the left off of Cafe Line Road. It's just a field or homes. The first road that you come to is Ed Brown Road, and you take that right, and Ed Brown Road actually runs from east to west, or actually west to east, for like not even 2 blocks. And then there's the parish line. There's a 4-way intersection. And right there, if you cross over the intersection that through the 4-way, that's Tangipahoa Parish. Or you can take a left. It's a gravel road. You take a left, and it runs just like North Cafe Line from south to north until it dead ends probably 2 miles down. If you pass up Ed Brown, about a half a mile up, there's one more unnamed gravel road you can take a right on. There's no houses on it that comes back up to the Ed Brown Road. Okay. So we couldn't say for certain, but naturally that's where we're going to go look first. Plus, we alerted Tangipahoa Parish Sheriff's Office. And a lot of times when we'd have to catch calls down in the hood off of Cafe Line Road and we were by ourselves, if we would get out and have somebody at gunpoint or whatever, Tangipahoa Parish Sheriff's Office deputies, because the line is right there, would be our backup, as well as the Albany police if they were available. If they weren't, the dispatch would call Tangipahoa Parish Sheriff's Office and they would have their guys respond. So everybody's looking for this vehicle with the temp license plate, and Ronnie Gregoire and I roll that away. So we turn on North Cafe Line Road and we're jetting down, and we come to Ed Brown, and I tell him, I say, hey, I'm going to peel off on Ed Brown. He said, I'm going to go up to the gravel road, and the next one I told you about. So I turn on Ed Brown, and then I hear I don't make it to the 4-way to the parish line, and I hear Assistant Chief Gregoire on the radio screaming, I got a vehicle driving away. I got one that hit the woods. The car is here. So turn and run in that direction. He gave a description of the vehicle. He actually got the license plate off of it. What happened was when he turned on the road, that vehicle was parked there, the old Cutlass with the temporary Wisconsin tag. Well, why is he parked on that street? Because there's no one on it. It's not even a street. It's just like a gravel pathway that connects the 2 roads, and it's very secluded. And when he turned onto the road, there was another car parked beside the Cutlass, And when he turns on and he sees them, he's like, oh shit. I mean, he knows they're armed, right? And he calls it in, stops, and he's taking the defensive position by getting out with his pistol. And two of the males jump into the car that was parked beside the Cutlass, and that car hauls ass. Well, it didn't come my way because I was coming down Ed Brown the other way and I didn't see them. So they must have took that left and then got back on North Cafe line. But one of them, because when the chief started screaming commands and had him at gunpoint, he panicked and hit the woods, but he was carrying bags full of money. And so we try to get there and set up a perimeter for the one guy that we have instead of chasing the vehicle. We don't know where it's at, but he had the license plate for it and called in a bolo or be on the lookout for that vehicle. And so we try to set up a perimeter and people responded. And once we had the perimeter set up, what we thought was a good perimeter, we approached the vehicle to clear it. Now, inside the vehicle, the Wisconsin's temporary plate, duct tape to it, there were numerous bank wrappers for money, like take a stack of $1,000 or whatever, all the ones that obviously they pulled there and they stopped and they were unloading the money, peeling off the wrappers from the money, etc., and trying to divide it up. But there were bank wrappers in the car from Hibernia Bank, numerous that had been torn. There were 2 pistols, which turned out to be cap guns. And then there was another pistol, which was a real pistol. Once the perimeter was set up and the K9 got there and they went into the woods to do the track, they found a bag and some scattered money inside the woods. So this guy panicked so hard that he actually dropped a large amount of money in the woods, and they're on the run, right? So that manhunt is going on. Meanwhile, Chief Russell has the license plate of the vehicle the other 2 drove away in. So the chief and other investigators run the license plate, and they were able to track down the owner of the vehicle that left the gravel road with the 2 bad guys in it. Actually, it was the driver and the 2 bad guys. And they track down the driver, and the driver takes them to a trailer park where he dropped off the 2 bad guys. Okay. Now the driver knows he's in a shit pile of trouble. Back then, cell phones weren't so prevalent as they are now, right? But anyway, they had to be involved somehow. Now it's believed that the driver of that getaway car probably was involved as a lookout in the bank robbery because one of the dumbass criminals left a walkie-talkie in the bank in the excitement of the robbery. Well, there's no reason to have a walkie-talkie unless you have somebody else that's helping. Now, that's never able to be proven. You know why? Because believe it or not, even in 2003, and you've heard me talk about cameras before, 2003, inside the Hibernia Bank, fucking cameras weren't working. Can you believe that? Inside a bank on a Friday, which typically banks are going to hold their most money on Fridays because people come to cash or paychecks, etc. The inside cameras weren't working. Outside cameras, yes. Inside cameras, no. Go fucking explain that to your insurance company. Well, I don't get it. I just will never, ever understand why places have cameras that don't work. Just like in the Christopher Pell story, Until Death Do Us Part, that I did that episode, the Popeyes. Kills his wife violently inside the Popeyes and the fucking cameras aren't working. I don't get it. So back to Hibernia. Inside, we can't say, other than what the eyewitnesses told us, exactly what happened in the sequence was, or you can't prove it, other than from witness testimony because your goddamn cameras don't work. Anyway, so one of them leaves a radio behind, which tells me they had contact with the outside, which is kind of smart. I mean, if I'm going to rob a bank, certainly I'm going to have somebody outside looking for the police and communicating with me. You know, they couldn't prove it. That guy cooperated and took him to the trailer. The trailer owner said that one of the suspects was there dressed in the dark clothing and was acting nervous and wanted to get out of the area extremely quickly. The trailer owner takes that suspect and gets him a hotel room. All right. So the investigation is still rolling. They roll to the hotel. And I mean, y'all, you got to remember this is hours later after the fact. And they get to the hotel and they take the door and they find some more evidence, some wrappers from the bank, et cetera, inside the room, but the bad guy is long gone. Good police work? Yeah, I think so. But it would get even better. And let me tell you this statistic so you'll understand. And you can go look this up. This is no shit. In the United States of America, the average bank robbery only nets $3,000 to $5,000. The FBI keeps the records on it, right? So at the end of the year, all the bank robberies that happen, it averages out where the bank robbers only get $3,000 to $5,000. I mean, shit, you could get more going to rob a dope dealer on the street corner or going to rob a Burger King or something, and you're liable to get more cash. I mean, it's just a really shitty choice of a place to rob normally because all the cameras and security systems they have and the die packs that can explode on you once you get a certain distance from the bank. Well, Hibernia didn't have those. If they had, it would have been really easy to identify people, right? Because those die packs, they go off after such a distance from the bank, they explode. And that shit, you can't get it off. I mean, it's there like it seeps into your pores. I mean, I don't care if you get acetone and take a shower and you're not getting it off of you. But Hibernia didn't have that. And they didn't have the cameras on the inside. And the robbers were able to get access to the vault, which is just unheard of. But I don't blame the employee for opening the vault. Shit, I'd have done the same thing. And when I train the people, now I do consulting work for large corporations. And I tell them when an armed robbery happens, your main goal is to get these people out of the door as quickly as possible. I said, what do you do during an armed robbery? You do whatever the fuck they tell you to do because your main goal is to get them out the door as quickly as possible. So they were able to access the vault. Now keep in mind my statistic. The average bank robbery, $3,000 to $5,000. Y'all, you never believe how much money this little Hibernia bank had in this little small town America. The audit was done after the robbery, and I'm rounding it down some, but approximately $353,000 these assholes got away with. Can you believe that? I mean, hell, if I'd have known the cameras weren't working on the inside, if they had $353,000, I might have robbed the fucking place myself. I mean, geez Louise. So they got away with $353,000 and some change. I mean, that's a big score, but they weren't very skilled robbers, if you will, due to the fact that they left a radio behind. The one guy took the time to sexually batter the one bank employee. And as the investigation progressed and the vehicle and all the evidence was collected, their shit was everywhere. The fingerprints, DNA, and then the one dumbass that didn't pull down his mask all the way until he was entering the bank was later identified by a bank employee. So I'm going to stop it there for this week. This is part 1 of Stick 'em Up. Now, why would you tune in for part 2? Because shit gets stupid. I'll tell you about the rest of the investigation, the apprehensions of the bad guys, the trial, and ultimately the most outrageous appeals process I think that I ever been involved with or heard of. It's just crazy. So we took a break from murder this week, and we'll conclude Stick 'em Up next Friday. And I'm telling you, tune into it, listen to it, because you're going to love it. So I'm Woody Overton, your host of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. And until next week, don't let me catch you down on Murder Bayou. Thanks. Okay, y'all, I told you before the episode began that I was going to do some shout outs and notifications. And the first thing I want to do is thank everybody for listening to the show. You're unbelievable, amazing. And y'all's response is just almost overwhelming. Our numbers don't lie. We are doing on average over 1,000 downloads a day. So right now, as I'm recording this, we're at 47,000 downloads. By the time you listen to this, I would suspect we'll be over 50,000 downloads in 10 or 12 episodes or whatever. It's phenomenal. It's only because y'all are liking and sharing and telling people about us, and you're tuning in to listen every week. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And your support of Real Life, Real Crime. It's awesome. Okay. And speaking of supporters, we actually have several new patron members that came on board to support Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast this week. And I want to give them a shout out. And y'all, Patron is a service where our fans, if they want to, can pledge a certain amount of money a month. And for that, you get certain benefits, right? And tier 1 is a $2 pledge, and that's a shout out by me and access to the hotline episode, which we dropped I think our third one yesterday. And of course, the response has been overwhelming. Tier 2 is the hotline number, a discount in the store, a shout out, our merchandise store, Real Life, Real Crime, a shout out by me, and access to one free, what I call mini episode a month, which we keep under lock and key. In tier 3, you get everything from tier 1 and 2, plus you get an additional full bonus episode a month. So, but y'all, it's a way to help us offset some of the costs of doing the podcast, and it's really, really appreciated. I just can't say thanks enough. But we have our new members, Miss Sadie Applefeller from Greensboro, North Carolina. Miss Sadie, I really, really appreciate you taking the time to reach out and support us and make the pledge, and I appreciate it. And then Miss Amy Clement, Clement, from Livingston, Louisiana. Well, y'all have heard me talk about Livingston. That's right here in my backyard. Miss Amy, we really, really appreciate you and really appreciate you supporting us financially. And it's awesome. We love you. Then Miss Stacy Spradling, Spradling from Hallsville, Texas. Miss Stacy, thank you so much for becoming a patron member and supporting Real Life, Real Crime. It's really important to us, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. And Miss Alicia Bess from Cleveland, Ohio. Miss Alicia, I really appreciate you becoming a patron member and supporting Real Life, Real Crime. And Karen Travels. Miss Karen, you're awesome. Thank you so much for supporting us through Patreon on Real Life, Real Crime. I appreciate it, and it really helps us out. We love it, and we love having you as a listener. And Amy Ardon Fowler, y'all, I worked with Amy and her husband at the sheriff's office for many, many, many years. And more importantly, Amy's father was a detective. When I made detective, he was already a detective, Robert Ardon. And he was just one of the coolest cats you'll ever meet. Never got frazzled or razzled or dazzled by anything. Taught me a lot of what I know. And a really good cop, really good detective, and funnier than hell. Maybe one day, hopefully I can get him on. He's retired now. But Robert, hope you're doing well, brother. Love you. So Amy, thank you for joining Patreon and supporting us. I really appreciate it. And the Firebird up their pledge from a lower tier to our highest tier. And Firebird, I know who you are now, but you know I love you, and I've known you forever, and you're a sweetheart. So that's it on the new Patron member pledges. I love y'all and I appreciate it. All our Patron members, thank you so much. It doesn't matter what tier you are. Now, the rest of our fans, if you can't become a Patron member, I don't care. I love you anyway. And I thank you for making us such a success. And please, if you want to support the show, you want to help us out in any way, then just tell somebody about us and like us and share us. And y'all don't forget about our private Facebook page, Real Life, Real Crime, Friends, Fans, and Crew, run by the best team of moderators, my dream team. These ladies are fantastic. And if you're not a member of the page, send a request and they'll get you approved. It's a private page. There's a lot of fan interaction, a lot more episode discussion, a lot of episode promotions and giveaways and things like that. It's really cool. And we're over like 760 members now. And it's been, I think, 2 months. So it's growing rapidly, but go there and use it. And then we created Real Life, Real Crime Lagniappe group. And Lagniappe, y'all, is a Cajun word meaning free or bonus or something extra, right? So this is an extra group page. Actually, my wife Cindy created it for our fans because we had such interaction on the crew page. People are just blowing it up. And a lot of our fans have different hobbies or interests or crafts or things that they make or sell, or like Jenny White from California's husband sent us these coins that he hand engraves and stuff. So we created this page so our fans could get together and share whatever it is that they love. Me, I love hot sauce and beer, and I want to trade it from people, local beers from around the nation or the world. We are 47,000 downloads in 83 countries across the world now. That's 83. So if y'all join that page and you want to trade some beer or hot sauce or local food items or sell whatever you want to sell, that showcase off whatever your hobby is, it's just something Lagniappe extra free or bonus for our fans and another way for them to interact. It's pretty cool. So check it out. And that reminds me that we also have our Lagniappe button, y'all. If you want to support Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, and you don't want to do Patreon, totally get it. If you want to make a donation, there's a Lagniappe button on the page, and you can donate whatever you want, $1 up to whatever you want to. And the Lagniappe fund, of course, will help us monetarily, but it also gets you an automatic shout out on the very next episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. And Patron members, don't forget about your discount in the merchandise store, y'all. In the merchandise store, we have some really great stuff. It's at rlrcpodcast.com. So go there and check it out. Great stuff. And I know it seems like I'm going on forever, right? Y'all, we have our own YouTube channel now. So you go to YouTube. I didn't know anything about YouTube before we did this, but you go to YouTube and you search Real Life, Real Crime podcast under channels, and it comes up. And what it is, we have every episode that I've done. Plus we have some camera stuff that I've done, some broadcasts from different locations. I did one from Biloxi. I've done one from Natchez, Mississippi. I've done one from Lafayette, Louisiana. I've done one from down here at Canal Bank Club, which was the beginning for me for the case Overkill. And so we're going to continue to do that. And we did one from our little favorite Mexican restaurant. So if you want extra bonus material or you want to see us versus just hearing me, then check us out on YouTube and subscribe to it. And then we're also on Twitter and Instagram, and of course the now 3 pages on Facebook. So I don't want to take any more of your time. Please tune in next week. This story doesn't have all the violence, etc. in it. Stick them up that the other one, our normal episodes do, but wait until you hear the stupidity of our criminal justice system. Sometimes it's going to blow you away. But anyway, I'm your host, Woody Overton. Thank you. Until next time, Don't let me catch you down on Murder Bayou. Bye. Each episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, will contain descriptions of acts of violence or of a sexual nature and are for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off the internet or from some television show. These facts I'm retelling were presented to me by the victims of the crime or the perpetrators who committed the crimes. My descriptions of the crime scenes are what I saw with my own two eyes. If you are going to get offended, turn this podcast off now. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. And I'm your host, Woody Overton. Today, we're going to be concluding the two-part series of Stick 'em Up. And this is a spoiler alert, y'all. If you haven't listened to last Friday's episode, Stick 'em Up, go back and listen to them. Otherwise, this show is going to spoil your shit. Go back, listen to it, and then come listen to this one. And at the end of today's show, y'all stay tuned. I'm going to be making a lot of announcements about Real Life, Real Crime and stuff that we have going on and giving my shout outs to the fans, etc. So stay tuned after the episode. All right. So today we're going to conclude Stick 'em Up. Now, last week when I left you, I told you about the bank robbery in Albany and the three males that committed the crime and how they later found on a gravel road, and when approached by Assistant Chief Gregoire, two of them left in another vehicle with a driver, and one of them hit the woods. And we came in and set up a perimeter, and then hours later, through investigation of the vehicle that drove away, investigators were able to go to a trailer where one of the suspects was dropped off, and the female at that trailer took him and got him a hotel room in her name. Later, investigators got a search warrant, were able to hit the hotel, but the guy was already gone. So we're going to pick it up and I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about how the process on an armed robbery or any major crime works like this. So we have the perimeter set up. Meanwhile, investigators are responding to the bank, and what's going to happen when they arrive there is they're going to separate the witnesses and get each of their statements individually. Now, typically, eyewitness statements or testimony is the most unreliable thing when they're faced with a crime of violence, okay? Because when someone has a pistol stuck in your face, the only thing you're concentrating on is that barrel. And if you've ever had a gun or a weapon pulled on you, you know, it could be the smallest caliber there is, and it looks like a howitzer cannon when you're looking death in the eye. But anyway, they get there, they separate them, they interview them, get their sequence of events as to what went down and who they remembered going where and what bad guy did what, etc. Now, at the same time, when they respond, they're going to automatically call out the Louisiana State Police Crime Lab to process the scene for any evidence. And it's important because smaller agencies, or just, I don't know of that many agencies in the whole entire state of Louisiana, other than the major cities that have their own crime lab, because it's such a huge expense to run it, right? But anyway, they call out the crime lab technicians and they'll show up on the scene, and, you know, it's locked down now, right? It's just like I told you before on homicides, etc. The crime scene, once investigators get there, they get the witnesses out. They don't interview them all up in the middle of the crime scene, but they get them out, get their statements, etc. And then the evidence or the crime scene is preserved for the lab technicians to come in and work it. And what they're going to do is come in and process any area where witness said that the bad guys may have touched the counters or the door or whatever. So they're processing for fingerprints and DNA. And in this case, they, like I told you before, one of the dumbasses left a radio behind in his excitement in the bank. And it turns out to be the same dumbass that put that one bank employee down on her hands and knees and committed sexual battery against her. Apparently he dropped the radio during his excitement of violating this poor woman. So that naturally is taken as a piece of evidence and sealed and tagged and bagged and sent to the crime lab for later processing for DNA and fingerprints. Meanwhile, at our other crime scene, or the continuation of the first crime scene off the secluded gravel road, we have the perimeter set up and they try to track the guy finally and don't get him. But they did find I think it was like 10 grand in cash and some more evidence from the bank. But at the same time, the investigators on that scene would have called for the Louisiana State Police Crime Lab to come out and process the vehicle. Now, these crime lab techs are awesome people. And over the years as an investigator, we have to call them out on any major crime scene. You get to know them, right? And they work a rotating shift on call outs. And when they come out on your scene and they process it, and then you get to know them through that, and then you get to know them, you have to go to the crime lab to go over the evidence they found as you're working the case, and then preparation for trial, and then you're sequestered outside the courtroom or whatever. So you get to know these guys and girls, and there's, I think, more females technicians than guys, but all of them are great people. Anyway, so they come to work the vehicle. Let me tell you how that's done. They will first photograph and video the outside of the vehicle, and then they work their way in, right? Careful not to touch any of the surfaces. Now, even though they still probably had an hour and a half or more of daylight left when they got there, they wouldn't have processed that vehicle there on the scene other than to do the initial video and photographing and collecting articles of evidence that were obvious, right, from the vehicle, which were the 2 cap pistols or fake toy guns, if you will, that were used. They were each tagged and bagged and sealed with evidence tape and entered into the chain of custody. And then the real gun that was used, which turned out that it's the same guy who committed the sexual battery that was actually carrying the real gun. And the whatever wrappers or small stuff that they felt could be compromised during the towing of the vehicle to Louisiana State Police Crime Lab. And so what they do, they'll process anything that's obvious or that could be disturbed during the transportation of the vehicle. And then the vehicle is towed. A lot of times they'll put a tarp over it or whatever. I guess depending on the weather, but the vehicle is towed to the crime lab and they put it in one of their bays and then where they can really work it over at their leisure, if you will. Then there's another continuation of the crime scene at the motel where the girl had rented the guy a room, and they processed that room and were able to secure some clothing which matched the clothing that this dumbass wore in the bank robbery, and it was sent to the crime lab also. So the investigation continues. Crime lab people get done. The vehicle's towed. Now investigators will work in the case from the point of identifying the people, the bad guys, if you will. Now, I told you the cameras inside weren't working, and they weren't, but there was one camera on the exterior over the door which was working, and it showed dumbass, the same one who committed the sexual battery on the employee, who was carrying the real pistol, who left the communication device behind. He doesn't pull his mask down until right when he's entering the door. Now, not only did they catch him on the exterior video camera, but one of the employees was able to identify him from looking at him when he came to the door. Also, the driver of the vehicle that took 2 of the bad guys away from the gravel road, well, shit, they knew who they were. And like I told you last week, I believe they fully knew. They probably were the lookout that was outside the bank or something looking for the cops. But they can't prove that, but they flipped him like a little bitch. And he gave up names of who he knew it to be. That was a 19-year-old Tommy Cooper, who was originally from Michigan. and lived in Hammond, Louisiana at the time. And I told y'all Hammond is the next city over across the Livingston Parish line from Albany, where the bank robbery occurred. And also Donald Pay, 19-year-old black male from Hammond also. Those are the two that the driver took away and took one of them to one location. The other one, which was Donald Pay, they dropped off at the female's trailer, and the female was also able to pick him out of a photographic lineup. I mean, she knew she did wrong. If the dude shows up, I'm sure he said they committed a bank robbery. Of course, she's not going to admit that. He shows up and she says he's nervous and needs to get out of the area quickly and all that. But she's just such a kind heart that she's going to take him and rent him a room, right? I don't believe that she knew every bit of it, but either way, she picks him out of a photographic lineup as being Donald Pay and takes him and rents him a hotel room. And so investigators end up ultimately issuing arrest warrants for Donald Pay, 19 years old. He's described as being 5 foot 9 inches tall and weighing approximately 150 pounds. He has a medium build, brown eyes, and a thin mustache and short brown hair. He also has a tattoo of words Payboy on his right arm. That's P-E-A, separate word, boy. Also, an arrest warrant was issued for Tommy Cooper, who is described as a black male with a medium build and a light mustache and short brown hair. Also resided in Hammond, Louisiana. The third arrest warrant was issued for a 16-year-old black male juvenile, which at the time they didn't release his name because being a juvenile in the state of Louisiana, they didn't release your information. And due to Louisiana laws on juveniles in cases, you can't release the names. So, but he was identified and an arrest warrant was made for him. And I'll go ahead and tell you his name. It was Nicholas Pay. And at the time he was 16 years old, but he's the one evidently that hit the woods off of that gravel road, ran on foot, and left over 10 grand behind during his escape. Now, Nicholas Pay was originally from Ben Harbor, Michigan. So arrest warrants are issued and the FBI catch up with Tommy Cooper in a hotel room in Charlotte, North Carolina. And they took him down hard. He was known to be dangerous, right? He committed an armed robbery, even though he used a play gun, still an act of violence. And so they developed the leads and they set up surveillance on him and then got a search warrant and hit the hotel room, took him down pretty forcibly. Now, Cooper, when he was arrested in North Carolina, had the warrant from Livingston Parish for the bank robbery, but he also had warrants out of the state of Michigan, and they had put a hold on him first, right, before the bank robbery happened in Livingston Parish. So they got first dibs on him, on adjudicating his cases there. So he waives extradition and gets shipped to the state of Michigan to go through whatever charges and cases that he has pending there. But at that time, Livingston Parish puts a hold on him. If he's ever to get out of jail, Cooper, I'm talking about, is ever to get out of jail, if he's sentenced to prison, the day he gets out of prison, he doesn't even actually get out, right? They're waiting on him. His sentence ends there. Livingston Parish officials will be waiting to transport him back to Livingston Parish to stand trial. Also arrested in Michigan was Nicholas Pay, and they transported him back to be processed at the time as a juvenile. And once he was back here, he had his birthday within a month or so. And in the state of Louisiana, you can be charged as an adult at 17. You can be charged underneath if they find out that basically if you have the mentality, right, you're 16, almost 17, where you can be charged as an adult and you're a little thug like this little bastard was, they would decided to process him as an adult regardless. So he gets processed in. Come to find out that the three of them, Pay and Cooper, have gang affiliations out of the state of Michigan, right? These are career punks, and they were true bad guys. All of them had charges pending from other cases, including Donald Pay. And from this point forward, we're going to concentrate on Donald Pay, who is arrested and booked into the Livingston Parish Jail awaiting the trial process. Now, while awaiting trial, they had the usual probable cause hearing for what the arrest warrant was issued for. And again, y'all, that's just a freebie for the defense attorney to find out exactly what the state has that they're going to be bringing to trial, at least part of it, so they can start to prepare. But of course, they challenge the probable cause, and investigators get on and put on the testimony. And at the end, the judge finds probable cause, right? So he goes through the process and the motions. And at the same time, remember that the State Police Crime Lab is processing all this evidence. During their processing, they come back that the radio from the bank has Donald Pay's fingerprints and DNA on it. Also, from the vehicle, his fingerprints are on everything in the damn vehicle, from a set of battery jumper cables to money wrappers from the bank to the actual firearm, the real gun that was used during the commission of the crime. His DNA and fingerprints were on it, right? And also the hotel room, like I told you, the clothes that were processed, it's Donald Pay's, it's his DNA, etc. that's obtained from the clothing. So the investigators built a really good case on this dude, and he's just a dumbass and decides he's going to take it to trial. Now, in the state of Louisiana, you do an armed robbery, and then you get up to 99 years. And that's the maximum sentence, right? But when you do an armed robbery, you got to serve your time. And you could be sentenced to 99 years without probation or parole. So he's still going to roll the dice. I mean, they knew that the state had really good evidence. I'm sure they offered him a plea bargain at some time to save the state the expense of the trial and the cost of the appeals. And that's what I'm going to get into, y'all. We're going to talk about the trial, but fucking appeals, man. And this guy's it's egregious, the amount of appeals and the money he costs the taxpayers, but we'll get to it. But he decides he's going to roll the dice and go in. So trial starts. Okay. It's an all white jury. Not uncommon in Livingston Parish. It's like 95% white. There's only a couple of areas that are predominantly African American in the entire parish. And one being an area in Denham Springs, which is the largest city. The second being a small area outside the city of Walker, which is the second largest city. And then there's a small area outside the town of Springfield, which is only like 5 miles away from Albany. And then there's a smaller area I told you about off of North Cafe Line Road outside of Albany. And that's it. I mean, it's not racist if you send out jury summons to your population and it comes in and that's all you got is white people. It's going to be a white jury. So anyway, it's all white jury, and the prosecution puts on all the evidence, including the bank employee who saw Donald Pay pulling down his mask, which is the same thing the exterior camera showed. And she testified that she was 80 to 95% sure that was him, period. And of course, she had picked him out of the photo lineup ahead of time before trial. The camera, I mean, hell, it was a pretty good shot of the dude, right? And the jury sees the camera evidence and shit, Donald Pay sitting right there. There's no mistaking it. And then the license plate, the temporary license plate from the car, the state police crime lab techs get up and they testify that the fingerprints on the temporary license plate and the duct tape the genius used to secure it to the vehicle come back to Donald Pay. The communication device left behind in the bank after he committed sexual battery on the female victim came back Donald Pay. I mean, this is what the testimony is showing. And then, they're telling the jury who's hearing this all for the first time. And then they put on the witness, the driver that took Pay and Cooper away from the gravel road and took Pay to the trailer. That driver testified to that and that what he was wearing, etc. And then the female who testified that he was all excited and what he was wearing, etc., and said he needed to get out of the area quick as she rented the room. And the crime lab testified that the clothing in the room had Donald Pay's DNA on it, and they were identified as the same clothes that he was wearing on camera. So, pretty fucking airtight case, right? Yeah, dumbass wanted to roll the dice. I bet you they offered him. I don't know for sure, and I should have checked, I guess, but they probably offered him like 40 years or something like that, and he just didn't take it. He wanted to go to trial, take that shit to trial. They used to have a song about that. So he goes, and doesn't take long. He does not testify on his own behalf. The prosecution puts up, the defense tries to poke holes in the witnesses, etc. And it's just an airtight case. They absolutely jam up job by the district attorney's office. And my friend Greg Murphy, who y'all heard me mention before, is the one who did the prosecution. And he's just solid. Never. He ain't going to take shit to trial that isn't a really, really good case. And so, anyway, jury comes back guilty, armed robbery. Big shocker, right? So the judge comes out and sentences him, Donald Pay, to 70 years at hard labor. And they ship his ass off to the Department of Corrections. And so he's going to Angola, because anybody that gets that kind of lengthy sentence basically goes to Angola. And over 5,000 or 5,500 inmates in the Louisiana State Penitentiary at Angola, over 4,800 of them have life plus sentences, and the rest of them would be the long-termers like Donald Pay. On robbery, 70 years is 70 years. I mean, he ain't getting out. He's going to die there. Or, unless he lives to be 89 years old. And that's it as far as the trial part. Great case, great prosecutorial work, great detective work, etc. But one of the sad parts about the trial where the bank employees testified, a couple of them can't even work in the bank anymore. They testified about depression. They testified about anxiety, about being scared all the time, and sleeping with a pistol by their bed. And of course, the victim who he rubbed on her genital areas is, very distraught, etc. And it's really sad for those ladies. Basically, it's PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder. Same thing if you were fighting on a battlefield in Iraq and you come home with it. That type of violent situation affects people differently, but some of these ladies were really, really kind of messed up about it, and understandably so. Even though they didn't kill anybody, it's still a really bad crime. And I don't think most people realize the level of mental violence that an armed robbery creates. So anyway, Donald Pay goes away. Boom. Bye-bye. See you later. Yeah. But this asshole starts his appeals, and he actually won his first appeal. And they said the judge incorrectly sentenced him, and he won that because the judge didn't wait the 24-hour period at least before the sentencing. So the court sends it back down, and it's no big deal, right? It doesn't change anything. All they have to do is ship his ass back to Livingston, give him a court date, and the judge has to re-sentence him correctly after X amount of time. So it's just a fucking waste of money in taxpayer dollars, and it doesn't even produce any result. It's not going to overturn the conviction. But then he goes on and files 9 more separate appeals. And this is what pisses me off. He's defended by Bertha Hillman of the Louisiana Appellate Project. And she's out of Thibodaux, Louisiana, which is way down south in Cajun country. But here's the deal. I'm going to go to the appeals. It's just stupid. But this lawyer is getting paid. They're going to file every fucking thing they can think of. You know why? Because they're getting paid. Your tax dollars are paying for it. The Appellate Project, they're getting paid. And so why do they file all these ridiculous appeals? Because they're making money, not because they ever expect to win. And wait till you hear how stupid some of them are. But really burns my ass when they do this. So first of all, they appeal to the Louisiana appellate courts and the Louisiana higher court, and it ultimately ends up in the federal court system. So it's not just one appeal, y'all. It's going through each level, higher level of the court system until it reaches the federal system. And then it goes to the federal magistrate, which is a lower court judge. And then the magistrate rules against them also. And then he appeals it to the federal judge. And the federal judge in this case was Judge James Brady. He's now deceased, and he's a great guy. And my college roommate was his son, Sean Brady, and he's now the head track coach for Texas A&M University. But let me read you the appeals and what his basis were. So he appeals, or the lawyers appeal for him, because they're making all the fat jack, right? On 8 different counts, y'all. The first ground for appeal was Pay says his sentence of 70 years was constitutionally excessive. All right. I'm going to read them real quick and then we'll go back to them. Ground 2. There was insufficient evidence to support his armed robbery conviction. Ludicrous. Ground 3. The indictment was defective because it was not brought in open court. Bullshit. Ground 4. The trial court gave an erroneous jury instruction on the law of principles. Ground 5. He was denied the right to testify on his own behalf. Ground 6. The trial court erred when it failed to charge the jury on circumstantial evidence, and trial counsel was ineffective for failing to object to the deficiency. Ground 7. His right to a fair trial was violated when there were no African Americans in the jury voir dire as a jury selection process. And he received ineffective assistance of the counsel on appeal when appellate counsel failed to assert this claim on appeal. In ground 8, he's appealing because he was denied effective assistance of counsel in several aspects. All right, this is like a shotgun blast. They're throwing mud at the wall and hoping something will stick. The first one, his sentence was constitutionally excessive. Really ridiculous. The lawyer is a dumbass and they weren't making money. They should be sanctioned, I think, for even bringing this up. But the petitioner initially contends that his 70-year sentence is excessive. In this regard, the Eighth Amendment protects against cruel and unusual punishments. In order for the petitioner to establish cruel and unusual punishment in this context, he must establish that the punishment meted out to him was grossly disproportionate to the crime he committed. So I love what the Supreme Court comes back and says. First of all, I didn't tell y'all, Donald Pay, while he's awaiting trial in the Livingston Parish Jail, is charged with 2 counts of aggravated rape of another inmate. And what that means is aggravated rape is, I'm assuming that he committed sodomy or he anally raped this guy. So it's penetration, but it's by force. So he must have had some type of weapon and held him down and raped him. All right. So he was charged with the 2 counts of aggravated rape. And then this is while he's awaiting his bank robbery charge. Now, before the court sentences anybody to jail after the trial, they do what they call a pre-sentence investigation. And that's where an officer gathers all the factual information about the bad guy, about their criminal history, how they're raised, all of this stuff. And they do a report, and it's kind of like a recommendation for the judge on a sphincter scale, if you will, of how bad of a bad guy they are. So the court comes back and they know about the aggravated rapes that are pending from the pre-sentence investigation report. And this is the only time I've ever seen this. The court not only denied that Donald Pay, the dumbass, sentence was not excessive, they added a footnote to it. And it said, the court further notes, as conceded by a petitioner in his supporting memorandum, that his pre-sentence investigation report reflected that he had previously pled no contest to illegal possession of stolen things and simple burglary of an inhabited dwelling, and was on probation in connection with those crimes when he committed the armed robbery. It says it's an offense, that means the armed robbery. Charges were also pending against him in connection with 2 aggravated rapes he allegedly committed while incarcerated in the Livingston Parish Jail. Court says that the defendant poses an imminent threat to public safety and should be sentenced to the full 99 years without benefit of probation and parole. Actually, the PSI said that, but the federal court comes back and puts this on the record, right? Not only is your 70 years not excessive, dumbass, you should have got 99 without probation or parole. So don't come crying about getting 70 when you affected those people and you violently robbed them. All right, let's move to the second one, y'all. Petitioner's claim number 2, alleged insufficiency of the evidence is without merit. Basically, what he's saying is that there was insufficient evidence to establish that he was one of the perpetrators of armed robbery that occurred on June 20th, 2003. Okay. How ridiculous is that? If you can get a better case short of having video from the interior, inside the bank, but you have his DNA and fingerprints inside on a device that he left behind. You have eyewitness that picked him out of the photo lineup. You have the video over the door where the dumbass didn't pull his mask down before walking through. And you have everything I told you. You have his DNA on the real firearm that's left behind in the vehicle. You have his DNA on bank wrappers and fingerprints on bank wrappers in the vehicle. You have his fingerprints in the car on the temporary license plate from Wisconsin and the duct tape used to secure it to it. I mean, you have all the eyewitnesses that after the robbery, etc. It's just a jam up case. Greg did a great job. But guess what? Appellate attorneys, they don't give a shit. They're just making a buck. So the court goes back and lists all that and just basically says, you're stupid, denied. All right. The third one is where he challenges the grand jury thing. And that's just technical BS, saying that the charges had to be read in open court, whatever. Grand jury is a secret grand jury where they hear the evidence in the case and they vote as 12 people and they vote to true bill, which means there is evidence to proceed with the criminal charges or no true bill. So they voted and it was all done legal and above boards. And this is an appellate attorney. Shame on you for making an extra buck. You know this is going to be denied, but you do it anyway. And then you appeal it all through the state courts, all the way to the federal court, top federal courts. Burns my ass. Denied, by the way. 4. The trial court gave an erroneous jury instructions on the law principles. And what they were challenging here, y'all, they were saying that specifically the judge had to tell the jury that if there was nothing beyond circumstantial evidence to tie Donald Pay, the dumbass, to the crime, then they had to find him not guilty. But that's not true. Okay. The prosecution puts on their case, whether it's circumstantial or physical or whatever. And it's just more fluff, throwing something against the wall, hoping it sticks. Absolutely denied, dumbass. Number 5, he was denied the right to testify on his own behalf. He could say this after all these years go by that his defense attorney wouldn't let him testify, but there's no proof to it. And his trial attorney said that was bullshit. And he's just lying at this point to try to get out. And of course, the appellate attorney, I'm sure, knows this, but again, she's trying to make an extra buck and it's denied. Dumbass. 6, that his own trial counsel was ineffective for failing to object to the deficiency on the trial court erring to charge the jury about circumstantial evidence. Same thing I already told you about. Stupid, without merit, absolutely denied. And 7, his right to a fair trial was violated when there were no African Americans on the jury. The federal court came back and said that's not Livingston Parish's fault. If you get some in, it's not like clerk of court is sitting back there pulling only white folks to get on the jury. It's based off the population. The names are randomly selected. And it just so happened that during the voir dire, which is the jury selection, that there were no African Americans present. It is what it is. So it was denied. And then on the 8th one, he comes back, basically reasserts everything about he was denied effect counsel. And he goes back saying his attorney didn't let him testify and that his attorney didn't challenge this and his attorney didn't challenge that and why, whatever. It was denied. Okay. So, but what I want you to know about when it finally reaches the highest court in the land, which is Judge Brady, that it's going to reach. And this is all ultimately denied. Guess what year it is? 2017. So the robbery happened in 2003. Goes to trial. He gets convicted and he appeals it for over 12 to 13 years. I mean, I don't get it. The longer your sentence is, or the worse your crime is, it seems like the more appeals they give you. Now, death row, I told y'all about, it costs so much more to put a person to death in the state of Louisiana than it does to house them forever. And that's because of the cost of the appeals. These appellate attorneys that are sitting out there just shooting lawsuits in and challenges, et cetera. Well, guess what? Somebody's got to pay for that. On the Livingston Parish DA's office still has to answer all this stuff, and it just runs up a humongous tab. And I don't agree with it. And I just think if you're found guilty, unless there's something that's just super stupid, outrageous, you shouldn't even get any more appeals. Now, I'm not saying that we don't convict innocent people and those cases shouldn't be fixed, but I'm talking about shit like this. You go 12, 13 plus years on appeals costing millions of dollars because you're dumbass, you're an ineffective robber of a bank and you left everything with your handwriting on the wall and the chain of evidence, and it's a slam dunk. You should not be allowed to appeal for that amount of time and cost us as the taxpayers that amount of money to defend it. And finally, it reaches Judge James Brady, and he says, basically, that's it. That's enough. You're done. All your appeals. Don't try to appeal any more stuff. You're done. Dumbass. You're done. You're done. You're done. It's over with. Enjoy your 70 years. But it's not over. Our friend Donald Pay, and I'm going to make this short, but it's kind of funny, later files another suit. But this time, he files it against Warden Burl Cain, who is the warden of Angola that I told y'all about in the past. He's not now, he's retired, and numerous other correctional officials, etc. In this federal lawsuit, he alleges that his constitutional rights have been violated by he lists everybody off from the warden to the lowest trainee on the staff by name, so I'm not going to go into that. Complaining his constitutional rights have been violated by the failure to protect him from excessive force by untrained and unsupervised officials in violation of the 8th Amendment. And so basically he gets his ass beat for being a little punk bitch that he is, and he files a federal lawsuit where he names everybody from the warden on down, again, shotgunning, hoping something to stick, but he doesn't actually list the names of the people who allegedly attacked him in the lawsuit. And he's trying to get a temporary restraining order, an injunction against David Templeton, the guy that ran Camp C. Now, how stupid is this? I mean, he files it once again back in federal court. He said, I got my ass beat and you didn't provide sufficient training for your correctional officers to protect me. So I got my ass beat and now I want to sue you for not providing me with enough security in Louisiana State Penitentiary at Angola. Hey, bitch, it's called hard labor, hard time, not summer camp, okay, where you can go tattle. And if you get your ass beat, you get your ass raped or whatever, you got it coming to you. You should have thought about that. The possibility, you know what? I might go to prison one day and there might be somebody bigger, badder, or stupider than me that's going to take advantage of me, make me their bitch, beat my ass, and do all these vile things to me that I did, and I raped the boy in Livingston Parish Jail. Guess what? Karma's a bitch. Donald Pay, enjoy your time. And of course, y'all, this, like all his other federal suits, were denied and thrown out. So that's going to conclude part 2 of Stick 'em Up. and Donald Pay is doing forever, y'all, and he's not getting out. And I'm going to do sphincter scale. I'm going to give this asshole at least a 9. Now, it's not a murder, but he did rape and he did offend sexually. I mean, if you're going to take the time during an armed robbery because you think a chick is hot to make her get down on her hands and knees so you can just rub her, I mean, it doesn't even make logical sense, right? This dude's an animal, and he already had numerous prior charges as an adult. Hell, he's only been an adult for a year, or in the state of Louisiana, possibly 2 years, 17 to 19, and you're doing this. No telling what the hell he did as a gangbanger punk bitch up in Michigan. So 9 for you, Donald Pay, and enjoy your time. Y'all, that's going to conclude this episode. Now, I'm going to make some announcements. I want to tell you, I love all our fans. You absolutely are killing it, man. I mean, you wouldn't believe. Just on Sunday, we hit 50,000 downloads in 84 countries across the world. And today is Tuesday, y'all, and we already hit 53,000 downloads. That's 3,000 more downloads Sunday in 2 days. So it's due to you, the fans, supporting me, supporting Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, and sharing us, y'all. Liking and sharing is so important. If you like us, that you share us, tell somebody about us. And if you can't be a patron member, and patrons are fans who subscribe to the podcast and they get extra bonus stuff, lagniappe stuff, and lagniappe being the Cajun word for extra, bonus, or free. And they get a lot of stuff, right? They get discounts in our merchandise store, rlrcpodcast.com. They get bonus episodes. They get early releases. They get the hotline number where they can call in and ask anything or say anything. And we've done 3 hotline episodes thus far, y'all, and they've been a huge success. But if you can't support us through Patreon, I don't care. Just take a little moment to tell somebody else about it. Share it in those Facebook crime groups when people are asking for recommendations. And, you know, really appreciate each and every one of you. Y'all, I've gotten some great response from fans telling me just things that you wouldn't believe. And I really appreciate it. It makes it all worthwhile. But if you are not a member of a private Facebook page, Real Life, Real Crime, friends, fans, and crew, go check it out. Send us a request, and we have the dream team of moderators, and they are awesome. They'll get you approved and get you in, and you get so much more bonus material and interaction with the fans and stuff. And we're on there every day. Even if you're not a patron member, go join that page. You'll get extra stuff just by being a part of it. And we have our Real Life, Real Crime lagniappe page that was created for our fans to share their different interests and arts or crafts or whatever they would sell. Me, I like beer and hot sauces and stuff like that, and salsas and stuff. And I'm going to trade with fans from different areas of the country and on some stuff. And I'm going to send them some Louisiana stuff, and they're going to send me some of their favorite stuff. So it's for whatever extra that you want. A good way for our fans to interact. It's pretty cool. So that being said, I want to give much due shout outs to our newest patron members. And last week's episode, I gave a shout out to a bunch of new patron members. I'm going to do that today. The first one, and I forgot to do last week, or came in right after I was beginning to record, is the person who calls himself Conspire Carrot. Now, that's CONSPIRER, Carrot, CARROT. Well, Conspire Carrot, whoever you are, I love and appreciate you, and really want to thank you for joining Patreon and supporting us that way. It means a lot. It helps out. Then we have Ellen Smolinski, SMOLENSKI. Ellen, we love you. I really appreciate you taking the time to support us through Patreon. I'm telling you, y'all, it takes a lot on these episodes, and it helps us. Your donations, they help us, and I appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy your benefits, Ellen, and thank you. And Kendall Passmore, That's PASSMORE. Thank you, Kendall, for joining me and supporting me through Patreon and Real Life, Real Crime. It's awesome. Awesome. And I hope you enjoy your Patreon benefits. Miss Kathy Morris. Miss Kathy, thank you so much. Miss Kathy just joined up yesterday. Miss Kathy, I really appreciate you. And I thank you for supporting the show. And it really, truly is a blessing and it helps. Thank you so much. And Miss Kathy, y'all don't be afraid to use that hotline number and call it in, okay? Today, we've had 3 before I started broadcasting. The first one is, I don't know if it's Jaime or Jaime, but it's spelled Jaimie, and the last initial of J. So I'm going to call you, how about I just call you Jay? Jay, I really appreciate you taking the time to sign on through Patreon and support Real Life, Real Crime. It's awesome. I really want to thank you. I sent you a message today, like I sent all our new patrons, but use your benefits and I appreciate you. Thank you, Jay. And Miss Keisha, and then the last name is the first, or the initial N is in November. Miss Keisha, I really appreciate you. It's awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to support us. And you get your hotline number, etc. And Miss Keisha, call us in a question and I'll play it on the air for you and I'll answer it for you. Okay. I really appreciate you. And I thank you for taking the time to support us. And Miss Lisa Chase, Chase, came in today also. Miss Lisa, thank you. And Miss Lisa, use the hotline, call us in a question. And right now I'm taking questions on the hotline for any questions you may have on a past episode of Real Life, Real Crime that you may have thought of that I didn't cover during the show, or just something you may have thought of. So Patreon members, get those questions in and we're going to shoot out an episode on that. And actually next week, Patreon members, I'm going to release a hotline on the Jessica Chambers case. Now, if you don't know who Jessica Chambers is, please Google her. It's a pretty infamous case, and it's simply the worst case I've ever seen as far as law enforcement screwing the pooch, if you will, on how they effed up this investigation. So Jessica Chambers, most of y'all are already familiar with it. I've gotten requests and we messaged back and forth about who they wanted to do a hotline episode on, and Jessica Chambers is the case. So there's a couple documentaries on her case. You can find anything online. So look it up. Send me your questions on that. So, but I appreciate y'all, Patreon members, and I appreciate all you Real Life, Real Crime fans. I appreciate my dream team moderators, and I appreciate my wife for doing all this editing and putting up with me. But I thank y'all so much. And if you like what we're doing, share it and tell somebody about it, right? And if you don't like it, send me a comment. We're always trying to improve and make changes that are positive and to give you a better show, a better podcast. So I'm going to tell you something. We're going to finish out the month of June, another homicide case. And then in the first week of June, we're going to finish out the month of May, not the month of June. We're going to finish out this month on episodes on homicides. Okay. Then the first week of June, we're going to Crime Con in New Orleans. And yes, we will be there. And then we're going to do a live polygraph from Crime Con. On one of our dream team moderators, I'm going to conduct a polygraph, and we're going to do it live on Facebook to our private group page. So that'll be advertised ahead of time, and it's being debated. One of the dream team moderators wants to be sprayed in the face with Freeze Plus P live and on Facebook. And I just don't know if I can do that to the poor girl because she doesn't know what she's getting into, but we're going to debate that and still kick it around. Also in June, y'all, I'm going to start having guests on the show. All right. I already have the rest of this month planned out in the first week of June. But from then on, I'm going to start having some guests on the show, and they're going to be law enforcement or victims or witnesses to the crimes that my episodes are going to cover. And I'm not going to take any more of your time. I've taken a lot. And I know this episode, or the 2 episodes, Stick 'em Up, are different. Not a lot of blood, not a lot of guts or sex or whatever. But I think it's important to, it's a pet peeve of mine. It's the whole Peels process. And I hope you enjoyed it. But either way, that's it. I'm Woody Overton. And until next time, don't let me catch you down on Murder Bayou. Thanks.